Hi all, welcome to the Marquee Matchups for the week of the 21st of November. Plenty to cover as always. We got 3 out of 4 this week, so I was quite chuffed with that. Helps for the prediction league, so check out everyone involved in that for the previous couple of weeks, guys. Be awesome, so show your support to everyone, would be much appreciated. Smash likes as always, sub to the channel if you're new. Follow me on Twitter at GSLegend. All links are down below for playlists in the channel and social media links as always. So let's jump into the video and go over our predictions. So first of the week comes, well, we've got 2 options in France. We have the Monaco versus PSG or Rennes versus Nantes. 2 very big games in France, and because Bordeaux versus Marseille did not feature last week, or this week I should say, for the Marquee Matchups, I have a strong feeling we're going to get a French route this week. With 2 big games in France, they have to be kind of looked at quite vigorously. You're thinking probably say 78, maybe even at the highest 79 overall for a squad. I wouldn't imagine we'll go too much more. Probably expect them to incorporate 5 or 6 players from the league, because that's what they seem to do. Not full squads, but only a handful of nations, handful of rares, and probably maybe even tap into exactly gold or something so forth. 6 to 10k for cost. They're not going to be too expensive to do, which is quite handy in reality. Smart players to kind of go for. Kimpembe will be a good shout. Malcolm, Salah, Dante, and you'll be sorted, guys. Bundesliga, same scenario as well. Dortmund versus Schalke, and then you have the option of Hanover versus Stuttgart. Like the French route, I have the main option being a 7 out of 10. I do fancy them to go with Bundesliga and Ligue 1. The alternative, like with Rennes versus Nantes, is a 6 out of 10. Hanover Stuttgart 6 out of 10 as well. But I would imagine quite similar requirements for both options. Philip probably be a good shout for Dortmund. Schalke, Konoplyanka is probably be a very popular choice, and I would kind of recommend going from in all honesty. Schoff, Caliguri, these kind of players, and they'll probably be like 15-20k packs is what you're going to end up as a reward, and they'll be worth doing. They're not going to be too expensive, as we saw with the ones this week, as long as you're prepared early and you're well and truly covered. Fulkrug and Jonatas as well are smart options. Going over to Italy, we have an interesting shout with Ternana versus Perugia. This is in the Serie B or Calcio B. This is like the Umbria region. It's like the biggest derby in the region. But will it necessarily mean it's a marquee matchup? Not necessarily. I think if this route was to feature, I would then suspect they might look at your gold like Brescia players. They might be the ones that might go up in value. Because Hadji played for Brescia in Calcio B, but I don't think that would kind of necessarily mean on that. But for me, 5 out of 10, and I think there's stronger options this week, but it's a good curveball option if they were to go with the Calcio B. The 2 gold are the ones I would kind of cover your bat with and then build the rest from there. EPL this week have Liverpool versus Chelsea, 79 rate squad, 6 out of 10. The reason why I've not given it higher than a 6 is because obviously we've got the North London derby, and I feel this week other leagues are finally going to get precedent over this, but time will tell. I think EPL's had its chance for now again, and it'll probably be a few weeks maybe before it sneaks back in. But plenty of smart players between Liverpool and Chelsea, like Robertson, Ings. Chelsea, you can look at Eduardo, Baba, Musonda, Moses. You're well and truly covered in reality, so you wouldn't be too strapped. With Belgium's Anderlecht standard, that's a cup game, so I'm put off by it. If it was a league game, I'd fancy it, but because it's a cup game, I'm put off by it. But still, 5 out of 10, got to feature it nonetheless. Big game, it's like one of the 2 of the biggest teams in Belgium. This would be one of the kind of routes that you'd have like a 70 overall, and you could get away with a handful of bronzes and a handful of silvers, peppered with enough goals to supplement it. You'd end up building a Pro League squad, or depending on what nations you had, you could end up probably going like say La Liga 2 or Ligue 2 or something. You'd find a balance out of that, so you wouldn't be too strapped. But as I said, 5 out of 10, probably a 5. It'd be like a 4 to 7k to do. Argentina's Racing Club versus Independiente. I'll get there in the end. The reason why I don't fancy this is because we've just had the Boca Juniors and River Plate. Well, this is a big derby in Argentina. I think other options will kind of feature this week, but 4 out of 10, 70 overall rating. You could easily cover this with plenty of silvers to supplement your golds. they wouldn't go high rated for this. This would be one of your cheaper options. You've got to prepare high to kind of cover your back. I've just used what I have in terms of players within the league. I don't have a goalkeeper in my main account on this league, which is kind of baffling. I have like pretty much every other league covered. Same applies with Motherwell versus Celtic, like Anderlecht standard. This is the League Cup final in Scotland. I don't fancy this route happening, mainly because they don't seem to do cup games. This week they had the Urawa Reds game for the AFC Champions League. They didn't do it. They might do it next week though. So they might do 2 league games and 2 cup games. If that was the case, they could do the 2 finals. So be prepared for this curved ball option. Just go for the goals like Dembele, Griffiths, Armstrong. These guys are no risk options and you'll be able to get them. Sinclair as well is going to cost you like $6.50, so you'll be well and truly covered. Motherwell players, plenty you can buy for $1.50. You'd end up not having to struggle at all. But then from there we've got a number of EFL options. We have 2 in League 1 and then 1 in League 2. We've got Fleetwood and Blackpool, Portsmouth and Plymouth, and Mansfield versus Chesterfield. Mansfield-Chesterfield is the minor strike derby. I think it's Fleetwood and Blackpool is like Battle of the Beach or something, I think they call it. And Portsmouth and Plymouth is like a South Coast derby. But between them all, 4s and 5s out of 10s that are not guaranteed to happen, but they are viable league derbies, as it were. They do deserve a bit of attention. And because Portsmouth and Plymouth have just been promoted, that might even happen. So be aware of that. And because of what's happened with Blackpool lately, that has a bit of significant importance as well. But you probably need to build like a 67 rate squad. People have suggested go for the high rate silvers. You can. Doesn't hurt to kind of and then just put some of the bronzes into the squad depending what they ask for requirements. But as I said, this would be a relatively cheap route if you're prepared. It could be expensive if you're not. And then as we said, Al Hilal, Urawa Reds, with this being the second leg of the AFC Champions League final, I would say this could easily sneak in. I'm still kind of sticking to similar thoughts of last week, like a 70 rate squad. I wouldn't imagine it'll go too high, mainly because of the calibre of both leagues don't have a great deal of goals. You could easily end up having like Podolski in your squad, for example, up at like striker, with say a Brazilian, like someone like Carlos Eduardo, and then having like a J League on one side and then Saudi League on the other. It'd be quite amusing, and you wouldn't find it too expensive or too difficult to prepare. Now, Spartak and Zenit, are we finally going to get a Russian League option in the marquee matchups? We're coming into like week 9 or 10 now of the marquee matchups, and the amount of times that a Russian option has popped up this year and it's not featured, I honestly think we're going to get it finally this week, because it's a top of the table clash. Both teams pushing early in the league, and I would say if this happens, it's a good strong shout. Wherever we get 3 big leagues and 1 small league is a different matter. I think this week we finally might get it. Zenit, probably look at your Juba, Amama, Paradis, Kranovitter. There's plenty to look at, so you'll be well and truly covered. MLS is a playoff semi-final, well, I think it's playoff final for the conference, if I've got it right, and it's between Columbus Crew and Toronto. This one, for me, because it's a derby and it's in the playoffs, this is a very strong shout, and because it's a small league, if you want to call it, I can't see them going too high. Like, I would imagine a 67 to 70 rated squad. They did 65, I think, the last time they did an MLS, so that's why I'm saying 70. They might bump up a little bit. I really do fancy it. 7 to 10, as usual, a couple of players from the league, then at least a good handful of rares. Smart options kind of going for like Altidore, Desmali. So final option of the week, guys, is Vissel Kobe versus Cerezo Osaka. This is the Kensai Derby, I think it's called. But for me personally, I would say with the options that are out there this week, I don't think this is going to happen unless they're planning to just kind of ease the J League a little bit for cards. But guys like Podolski will probably be, and Kiyotaki will probably be people that will be invested in, and there's decent golds and decent silvers, sorry, to kind of cover your back as well. But as I said, this is a 5 out of 10. 67-70 rated squad is probably what you need at the very most. But hopefully you find this useful as always, guys. Let me know in the comments down below what you fancy for the marquee matchups for this week. As I say, Dortmund Schalke, Monaco PSG, Spartak Zenit, Columbus Crew versus Toronto, and then I'm going to go the Al Hilal Urawa Reds game as my wildcard for the Predictions League. So hopefully you find this useful as always. Remember to check out everyone involved in the Predictions League as well. Smash the likes as always, sub to the channel if you're new, follow me on Twitter at JSLegend, and I'll catch you all later.